Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. Since ancient times, the Chinese have often used the term femme fatale to describe beautiful women whose charm is said to bring calamity to the nation. But why would a seemingly delicate woman be given such a powerful image, capable of influencing the fate of an entire country? In fact, this saying is closely related to many historical tales, such as the well-known story of the beacon fire to amuse the lords, and the legend of Daji, Daji, bringing chaos to the Shang dynasty. At its core, however, the term femme fatale actually reflects a deeply rooted patriarchal mindset, where men are considered superior to women. Especially in the case of Daji, later historical records and novels often portrayed her as a fox spirit, turning her into the very embodiment of how beauty could lead to destruction. For thousands of years, this narrative was passed down through generations, until people eventually came to blame the fall of the Shang dynasty entirely on Daji. But was the Shang dynasty truly destroyed because of Daji? And who was she really? In truth, describing Daji as a woman who brought down a nation is highly exaggerated. Recently, an ancient tomb unearthed in Hunan province, China, has drawn significant attention from archaeologists. Preliminary research suggests that this is Daji's tomb. Upon opening the burial chamber, experts sighed in amazement. We may have misunderstood her for thousands of years. According to the artifacts found in the tomb, historical records suggest that King Zhou of Shang once led an attack on the Yusu clan, and Daji was brought back during that campaign. This part of history reveals that Daji did not enter the palace voluntarily. She was more like a political pawn, a sacrifice in the power struggles of the time. Even more surprisingly, the tomb artifacts provided descriptions of Daji that are far more detailed than those found in ancient texts like records of the Grand Historian, Shi, offering new clues to help us better understand that period in history. It's widely known that King Zhou of Shang is remembered as one of history's infamous tyrants. But his real name was Dingling, and historical accounts depict him as a man of great courage and talent. He was strong-willed, physically powerful, capable of fighting wild beasts barehanded, eloquent, musically gifted, and far from being entirely useless. However, he did possess some serious character flaws, a deep indulgence in pleasure and a tendency toward stubbornness and arrogance. These issues worsened over time and eventually led to political instability. Clearly, the fall of the Shang dynasty had multiple causes, and Daji was far from the sole reason. When Dingling ascended the throne, the Shang dynasty had already lasted for centuries and was at its peak. Around 1030 BCE, he led a military campaign against the state of Yusu, located in present-day Wen County, Hunan province. This small state, ruled by the Yusu clan, quickly fell to Shang forces. To spare his people from the suffering of war, the leader of Yusu offered several beautiful women to the king as a peace offering. And Daji was one of them. According to the ancient text The Annals of Emperors and Kings, Diwan Shiji, Daji caught the eye of King Zhou due to her stunning appearance and was taken as his consort. From this, we can see that Daji did not seek power, nor did she have the ability to manipulate court politics. She was merely a young woman who became a political sacrifice amid war, a victim offered up in hopes of preserving peace for her homeland. So why did a woman who was passively drawn into a power struggle end up being portrayed by later generations as a demonic beauty who plunged the world into chaos? This brings us to how some ancient texts depicted her. For example, in biographies of virtuous women, Liu Bei, it is written, Daji bewitched Zhou, leading him astray, he punished those who dared to advise him. It claims that Daji led the king to become cruel and unreasonable, rejecting all counsel and punishing his ministers. The text also says that those favored by Daji were rewarded with high office and riches, while those she disliked were severely punished. Additionally, records of the Grand Historian, Shi, includes the phrase, Zhou followed Daji's words. which further branded her as a woman who corrupted the government. But it's important to note that these records were written more than 1,000 years after Su Daji's time. Over such a long period, true history often becomes distorted by myths and legends. Many stories about Su Daji were likely embellished or invented by later generations, and thus may not be entirely reliable. If it weren't for the archaeological discovery of Daji's tomb, she might still be misunderstood as a siren who brought ruin to a nation. No wonder the archaeologists sighed upon seeing the artifacts. We may have wronged her for thousands of years. In fact, Daji is not the only woman in ancient Chinese history to be misunderstood. Famous women like Yang Guifei and Li Shizhi have also been labeled as beauties who brought disaster. At the root of it all lies the deeply entrenched patriarchal ideology of feudal society, which often placed women in a subordinate position within historical narratives. Whenever a state or dynasty fell into turmoil, women were easily scapegoated as the culprits. According to historical records, King Wu of Zhou's campaign against the tyrant King Zhou of Shang took place in the 12th year of King Wu's reign, 1044 BCE. On the morning of a Jiazi day, in the second lunar month. That day, King Wu, Jifa, led his army to the outskirts of the Shang capital Zhaoge, modern-day southwest Qi County, Hunan, to a place called Mai, where he prepared to launch the final battle. There, he held a solemn oath-taking ceremony, with a yellow banner symbolizing authority in his left hand, and a flag adorned with a white ox tail in his right. Jifa solemnly addressed the warriors from all directions. Brave warriors from the west, I thank you for your long and arduous journey. He continued, my allies, esteemed rulers, ministers of land, war, and works, commanders, military officials, and the people of various tribes, Yong, Shu, Chang, Mao, Wei, Peng, Pu. Please ready your weapons and organize your ranks. I am about to take an oath. With great gravity, King Wu declared. The ancients used to say, if a hen crows, it is an omen of misfortune for the household. Today, King Zhou indulges in his harem, listening only to the words of women, neglecting ancestral sacrifices, and ignoring matters of state. He distances himself from his kin and favors flatterers, even appointing cunning fugitives to high positions, allowing them to oppress the people, disturb governance, and endanger the very foundation of the nation. Now, I, Jifa, have come by the mandate of heaven to carry out justice on behalf of the divine. In this battle, fight with caution. Each step forward must be taken with discipline, do not act rashly. Every assault must be methodical, advance with steady force. May you all fight bravely, with the ferocity of tigers and leopards. He also reminded them, those from the Shang army who voluntarily surrender must not be harmed. They should be accepted and used to our advantage. Warriors, I urge you to fight with all your might. Anyone who retreats from the battlefield will face military punishment. After the oath, the allied lord sent forth 4,000 chariots, lined up neatly across the plains of Mai. When King Zhou heard that Jifa had mobilized his troops, he hastily assembled his forces to respond. Though he claimed to have 700,000 soldiers and horses, most were hastily recruited slaves and commoners, lacking the will to fight and only hoping for a quick end to the conflict. Under the strict discipline and overwhelming momentum of the Zhou army, many of the Shang soldiers defected en masse, turning their weapons in support of King Wu and aiding his forces. Seeing this, Jifa launched a decisive attack, causing the Shang troops to collapse and scatter in utter defeat. Realizing that all was lost, King Zhou retreated to Zhaoge, climbed the Deer Terrace, the symbol of royal power, dressed in splendid robes and adorned with jewels, and ultimately chose to end his life by setting himself on fire. After the battle, Jifa personally held the battle standard and organized the allied forces. The lords came forward to pay homage, expressing their allegiance. Ji-fa, in turn, offered ceremonial bows in return. And the lords unanimously pledged to obey the commands of the Zhou king. Ji-fa led his troops into Zhaoge, where the people had already gathered outside the city to welcome him. He sent officials to announce to the people, "This is the new life granted to you by heaven. The beginning of a new national order." Upon hearing this, the Shang people knelt twice in unison. And Ji-fa bowed in return, showing his respect. Afterwards, Ji-fa entered the city and arrived at the site of King Zhou's palace. To symbolize the execution of heaven's will, he ceremonially shot an arrow at the palace. Then used ritual instruments to complete the symbolic act of punishment. After the ceremonies, King Wu of Zhou, Ji-fa, led his army away from Zhaoge and returned to the camp, officially declaring the fall of the Shang dynasty and the establishment of the Zhou dynasty. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.